the girl discovered something strange. The wood on the hull had various forms of corrosion. She gently poked it with a pencil. Unexpectedly, the plank was punctured, and disgusting slime oozed out. The girl wasn't disgusted, and directly probed it with her hand. She discovered that it was actually a barnacle. But Emma, on the side, felt that this matter was not so simple, so she decided to take her oxygen gear and dive into the sea to investigate. However, when she reached the bottom of the ship, she encountered a terrifying sight. Countless glowing blue tentacles clung to the hull, and even more frightening was yet to come. The moment she turned her head, a gigantic blue creature appeared before her, and she couldn't even see clearly how large this monstrous being actually was. Then, even more terrifying strange occurrences began to unfold. The girl Emma was a PhD student in marine biology. However, she was very reclusive. Emma didn't have a single friend at the research institute. One day, a colleague was having a birthday party. Emma not only didn't join the celebration, but she felt that her colleagues were too noisy and disturbed her research. The professor came over and asked her if she would join them, but she still said she wouldn't go. At this point, the professor suggested that she go out to sea to complete her internship task and not stay in the laboratory all day without any friends. Emma didn't want to go at all, but the professor threatened that if she didn't go, she wouldn't graduate. Emma had to go out to sea for her internship. She found a slightly worn-out fishing boat. On the day of departure, Emma was late. Fortunately, the crew wasn't angry about it. He even came out to greet her personally. Soon, Emma was taken by crew member Tom to meet the captain. The captain's wife was a Viking. She had an innate talent for navigation, so the one truly in charge of steering the boat was actually the woman. After the captain introduced himself, he went to the cabin to check if the mechanic was ready. The mechanic and sailors were checking the equipment on the boat. The captain approached and first showed concern for the two. Then he brought up a topic he was reluctant to discuss. He was very poor now. Only by achieving good results at sea could he have enough money to pay them salaries. The mechanic couldn't help but complain after hearing this. His wife had just given birth, and there were expenses everywhere. The captain quickly tried to calm the mechanic down. He promised to compensate them when they returned. The two had to agree to the captain, but what they didn't know was, this trip might be one from which they would never return. Emma was chatting with the female captain. The female captain asked her what kind of work she did. Hearing this, Emma was eager to share. She boasted about her work. The female captain was somewhat speechless. Then the socially awkward Emma went to the deck. She took off her jacket and hat. Emma revealed her auburn hair. Tom caught the attention of the skinny guy nearby. The skinny guy turned his head and shouted a curse, because red hair was considered unlucky when going out to sea. The captain and his wife were also stunned by this scene. They didn't know that Emma had red hair, but the money Emma had given them had already been spent, and the penalty for breach of contract was something they couldn't afford. Emma felt very wronged and said that her hair color was natural. Tom advised her to wear her hat. The captain could only accept the situation upon seeing this. Then the fishing boat officially set sail. Emma followed Tom to the cruise lounge. She found that there were only 4 bunks. Emma was very puzzled by this. The number of people on board far exceeded 4. Where would the rest of the crew rest? Tom told her that the crew worked in shifts. Half of the crew worked while the other half slept, and the sleeping time in a day was only 5 hours. Emma was very shocked by this response. This was no way for humans to work. If there is not enough rest for such high-intensity work, the crew could very likely suffer from mental breakdowns, and even make various life-threatening actions. This mental disorder is known as sea fever. Tom thought she was being alarmist after hearing this. In the cockpit, the captain and his wife were planning the route. They were heading to the fishing grounds as per their plan. Meanwhile, Emma followed Tom around for a tour. She saw the water purification device invented by the mechanic. Emma was quickly captivated by it. Even the socially awkward Emma sincerely praised it. She thought it was a waste of the mechanic's talent working here. After the tour, Emma was taken to a place where she could rest. The old lady told her she could work here. Thus the fishing boat moved forward on the calm sea. Before long, the captain suddenly received a message from the Marine Patrol. They warned them to avoid the restricted area ahead. There were offspring of a certain marine animal there. If they crossed through the middle, they could very likely harm these animals, and this restricted area was right on the captain's planned route. Not only that, according to the survey, this area had a rich population of fish, but after some thought, they still responded to the patrol saying they would not sail into the restricted area. The female captain stepped outside for some fresh air. Meanwhile, the captain stayed alone in the cockpit. He looked at the route map in front of him. seemingly deep in thought. Soon, it was evening. The crew held a banquet and prayed for the favor of the goddess of luck, but they didn't invite Emma. Emma brought her laptop to the cafeteria. She wanted to get some work done there. A group of crew members awkwardly stared at Emma. Emma was also confused by this scene. She quickly returned to her cabin to focus on her research. As her research progressed, Emma felt as if she were deep in the ocean, surrounded by various marine creatures. In the following days, Emma continued to work alone. She has returned to the way she used to be in the research institute, focusing on studying her own topic. Occasionally, the old lady from the cafeteria would come to talk to her, telling her interesting mythological stories. The next day, the captain noticed whales swimming alongside the boat. It is believed in folklore that whales represent the goddess of luck. The captain quickly informed the crew of this news. For a moment, the crew was immersed in joy. At this moment, Emma stood up to interrupt them. From a scientific perspective, whales are very averse to noise, so they usually don't appear near ships. This statement made the captain very displeased. However, in the next moment, the radar detected an anomaly. A massive unknown entity appeared ahead. The fishing boat seemed to have collided with something. The communication equipment was damaged during the impact. Now they were unable to call for rescue. The captain's greatest fear was that the hull would be breached. If it were breached, everyone would perish in the sea. The mechanic hurried down to the lower cabin to check, but he seemed to see something incredible. The mechanic quickly called the captain and Emma to come down. When they arrived below, they found that the physical structure of the wood seemed to have changed. It could be easily punctured with a light poke. Moreover, a strange liquid oozed out from it. Emma also didn't know what it was. She reached out to collect a bit of the liquid. This slime resembled some kind of biological secretion. Then she scooped out a portion of the tissue fluid with a spoon and placed it in the cultured dish she had brought. The captain directly reached out and tore the plank apart, revealing some kind of marine creature inside. Although Emma couldn't be sure, she thought it might be some type of barnacle. Then the captain suggested that Emma help them solve this problem. He said her purpose for coming was to find anomalies for research. Emma didn't refute this. She quietly put on her diving gear before she went underwater. The captain handed her a knife. He instructed her to use it to clear the barnacles. Emma had practiced diving before, but she had never dived in such deep waters before. She, who is obsessed with the ocean, will also feel a little nervous on this day. After some mental preparation, she finally entered the water. Emma swam around the hull of the boat. There were glowing tentacles adhering to the ship. Although Emma didn't recognize what it was, she was sure it wasn't barnacles. She intended to cut them off with her knife. Emma discovered that the glowing creature emitted black ink. Suddenly, Emma was frightened. She quickly swam back to the boat. The crew was very curious about her reaction. What had she seen to scare her like this? Emma then told the crew everything she had seen. The captain immediately concluded that it was a giant squid. He wanted to throw a net to catch it right away. Moreover, they were trapped by the squid and unable to move. They could only deal with the squid first. Soon, the fishing net was cast into the water, and they really caught something. But the creature was a bit too strong. The whole fishing boat tilted to one side. The captain had to order them to release the lines. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Tom was walking when his hand got caught in the winch. Fortunately, another crew member quickly shut off the winch. Tom only sustained minor injuries, and the attempt to capture the squid was declared a failure. Tom returned to the lounge to bandage his wound. Emma found his wallet lying on the ground. She picked it up and noticed there was some slime on it. It was just like the slime on the cabin floor. Suddenly, Emma spotted something in the distance. She hurried to find the captain. It turned out there was another fishing boat. This meant that both sides would need to share the profits from this area. But the captain thought that the other boat might have machinery that could easily catch the squid. Then they could escape their predicament. However, firing the flare gun received no response. The captain informed the crew of this. However, no one was willing to seek help from the other boat. At this moment, Emma volunteered to go. Seeing that the first-time student was so brave, the captain and Tom decided to go with her to the other boat. Soon, the three of them arrived on the other boat, but there wasn't a single living person aboard. They searched the deck for a long time, but saw no one. They went to the cockpit and found the radio was also broken. The three of them were momentarily speechless. They could only check the cabin to see if there were any survivors. However, as soon as they entered, a smell of blood hit them. After searching, they discovered that all the crew members were dead. They were covered in blood, and it looked like they had committed suicide. Some even had their eyeballs burst. The captain believed this was caused by sea fever. The three of them quickly ran back to the deck. The captain had no intention of calling for help. He also instructed Emma and Tom to keep it a secret, to avoid causing panic. The two were so shocked that they immediately agreed to the captain. Soon, the three of them returned to their own boat. They heard some good news. The giant squid had disappeared. The fishing boat could now move freely. The crew saw that there were many schools of fish nearby, so they hurriedly cast their nets to catch fish, and the catch was quite good. It seemed that everything was heading in a positive direction, but the crew did not realize that a disaster was quietly unfolding. After going through so much, Emma had changed. She has been immersed in the study of marine biology, and still doesn't need it at all. She didn't even know what she had encountered. At this moment, she realized she was just an ordinary person. Emma finally had an epiphany. Recent events had made her develop feelings for Tom. She went to the lounge to chat with Tom. Something was about to happen between them. Suddenly, a crew member came over and interrupted them. They were going to have a celebration banquet. Emma was used to this kind of atmosphere. After finishing his meal, Tom suddenly became unusually excited. He invited Emma to go swimming with him. The captain sensed something was wrong upon hearing this. He quickly instructed everyone to stop him. At this moment, Tom had already stripped down and was ready to jump in. Everyone had a hard time pulling him back. The captain questioned him if he had eaten something he shouldn't have, but Tom firmly denied it, saying he wouldn't dare. Emma suspected he might have been infected, so she wanted to check his eyes. Emma was immediately frightened. The captain's flashlight revealed nothing. He just said she must have seen it wrong. Emma also hoped she was mistaken. She hurriedly told Tom to rest, but as soon as Tom stood up, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his eyes. In the next second, his eyeball exploded. A swarm of tiny worms burst out from inside. After struggling for a while, Tom died. Emma quickly urged everyone in the room to leave. She realized this was a type of parasite, transmitted through the water supply. The female captain rushed to shut off the water supply. At this moment, they thought of the skinny guy who was taking a shower. They hurried to warn the skinny guy to turn off the water, but it was too late. By the time they entered the bathroom, the skinny guy was already covered in blood, leaning against the wall. They quickly bandaged him and told him to rest. The skinny guy's condition progressed relatively slowly. He was now in a state of high fever, and he also felt discomfort in his eyes. They then went to check the filtration system. In the water tank, the filtering iron mesh has been bitten into a big hole. This showed how terrifying this parasite was. The water tank was now filled with parasites. They quickly sealed off the water tank, but this also meant they had lost their fresh water supply. However, Mary was not worried at all. Her knowledge told her that this parasite was definitely related to the deep-sea creatures they encountered before. They were difficult to survive in fresh water. As long as they waited one night, they would all die. The next day, they carefully opened the water tank. They found that the activity of the parasites had decreased, but there were still many parasites present. At this moment, Emma remembered the liquid she had collected, so she returned to her room to conduct research. Emma discovered that the liquid was full of parasite eggs. Tom's rapid outbreak of infection was caused by direct contact with insect eggs. Due to injury, she then began to look for a way to kill the parasite eggs, but UV light and disinfectants were ineffective. Suddenly, she stared at the lamp in front of her, deep in thought. Then Emma approached the captain. She proposed using the entire boat as a conductor. After everyone put on insulated boots, they would electrocute the whole boat. Although the female captain opposed it, this was the last resort. They quickly began their work. The massive current scorched the doll at the bow of the boat. Surprisingly, this method actually worked. The parasites were killed, but Emma said they would have to wait another 36 hours to know if they had been infected. The female captain opposed this suggestion upon hearing it. Emma had to approach the mechanic again, but this time, the mechanic didn't agree either. They all wanted to quickly return to shore. At this point, the skinny guy was barely alive. The old lady from the cafeteria was by his side. The skinny guy asked her if he was still awake. Receiving an affirmative answer, the skinny guy instantly broke down. He had completely lost his sight. After struggling for a moment, he stopped moving. The old lady then realized he was dead. The crew held a very simple funeral for him. Emma still wanted to persuade them not to go ashore, but she faced unanimous opposition from several people. Emma went straight to the stern of the boat. The mechanic sensed something was wrong and came to take her back. Upon learning that the engine was damaged, the old lady from the cafeteria punched Emma directly. The female captain also stepped forward to criticize her actions. By evening, the female captain came to find Emma. She asked her to help check on the crew. Initially, no problems were found during the checks, until they checked the captain. Seeing that things had come to this, the captain revealed the truth to everyone. He had privately changed the course, and entered the restricted area, which led to the subsequent series of events. Upon hearing this, the old lady immediately broke down. Tom and the skinny guy were killed because of the captain. She apologized to Emma, but the old lady's hand slowly reached for Emma's neck. Emma broke free and ran away frantically. The old lady chased her closely from behind. After Emma climbed the ladder, she kicked the old lady down. The old lady died instantly on the spot. A larva fell out of her eyeball. This indicated that only looking at the surface of the eyeball could determine whether it was infected. Meanwhile, the captain and his wife were alone in a room. Then, the captain took out a knife. After a while, the female captain walked out from inside, and the captain was dead. Now there were only 3 survivors left on the entire boat. The female captain escaped alone in the lifeboat. Emma and the mechanic returned to the water tank, and discovered that the previous larvae had grown into gigantic creatures. It seemed that this ship was no longer salvageable. They prepared to set the ship on fire. They doused the entire deck and cabin with gasoline. Then they prepared to leave in the lifeboat. Unexpectedly, the mechanic lost his balance and fell into the water. He was quickly pulled away by the gigantic creature. Emma saw the danger and jumped in directly. She pried the creature's tentacles apart with her bare hands. Emma managed to pull the mechanic up. The 2 of them lay on the lifeboat. At this moment, the mechanic saw a Coast Guard ship approaching. In the distance, it seemed they were about to be rescued. Suddenly, Emma noticed something unusual about her wrist. She pulled up her shirt and saw that she was injured. Infection was now inevitable. To avoid involving the mechanic and the people on land, Emma dove into the water and swam towards the creature, leaving the mechanic alone to wait for rescue. The film ends here. Sea Fever is a sci-fi thriller. It explores the theme of unknown marine life, delving into the mysteries of the deep sea. The special effects are average, but limited by a low budget. The film only features a few parasite larvae. The full appearance of the creature is not shown to the audience. The film attempts to create a tight plot, but it seems the director missed the mark. There are many plot holes in the film. The female protagonist, as a researcher, even handled samples directly with her hands. The mechanic knew to use a screwdriver, and after sampling, they did not conduct timely research. Only after 2 people died did they think to use a microscope. Moreover, how did the female lead manage to pry the creature apart with her bare hands? The creature was stuck to the hull, and even a knife couldn't remove it. There are many more flaws that won't be elaborated on. Many characters in the film, including the female lead, suddenly change personality and make sacrifices at certain moments. It aims to showcase the complexity and greatness of human nature, but due to insufficient build-up and logic, it comes off as somewhat forced and strange. Additionally, the theme touches on the conflict between science and superstition. However, the film doesn't delve deeper into this aspect. It merely presents it in a simplistic manner. Overall, the story's theme is relatively interesting, but it has too many plot holes. The depth is lacking. The special effects are only average. There's no need to watch the original film. If you enjoy my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Your support is the greatest encouragement for me.